So, traditional Jewish, Christian, or Muslim. To understand atheist and agnostic as well as many types.
Take it.
I don't know how.
We're back.
Grant me strength.
I like both of these titles. We're going to have to decide.
Yeah.
I literally chuckled when I saw that.
I'm glad. Because this next guy is a book.
It was a book. So now we said both potential titles, so we're right. Regardless.
You'll know which one we go with by the time this gets released.
Before we do? So, in our line of holy books.
Yeah, this is going to be quite the series within our series.
I know. I mean, there's a lot of holy books, so.
Just so many. Every group's got their own book, right? Or more.
Or more.
I mean, for the most part, we've been talking about collections.
Because the Bible's not a book, it's a library.
Yeah, exactly.
And
have you seen a printed edition of the whole Granth Sahib?
only in videos.
Okay. It's a collection.
It is, yeah. It's
pretty impressive.
a big book. You have some interesting stats on pages and shapes and things.
Yeah, we'll
too.
get into that later.
Anyway, so yes, we're talking about the Guru Granth Sahib on this episode of
The Holy Watermelon Podcast. Should we start with story time?
Sure.
Guru Arjan was the fifth guru of the Sikh tradition. And if you look at, I'll post the family tree of the gurus in Discord if you want to look at it. All of the gurus are family except for the first.
Oh.
Yeah. The first guru appointed somebody he trusted, a friend, to be the second guru, a close follower. And then every time since then, it's my son, my cousin, my son-in-law, my cousin, that kind of business.
Nepotism.
A little bit. But, there's loyalty within family, so it's not wild. It's just a thing.
All right. And hopefully they're all very wise, which is what we want in our gurus.
That is a really important job, if you want that title, of being wise. I want that job.
One day.
So anyway, Guru Arjan, the fifth guru of the Sikh tradition, which, as we've talked about before, kind of bloomed between Islam and Hinduism in India. Arjan was the son of the fourth guru and the first guru to be born into the Sikh tradition.
So now it is established as opposed to gurus just dropping knowledge.
Right. Yeah, everybody before him, as far as the gurus, the four gurus who preceded him, were born into the world of India and the multiplicity of faith traditions, mostly Hinduism, and converted. Arjan was born into it.
Cool.
So Arjan's older brother, Ram Das Jr., believed that it was his right to lead as their father's successor, and he acted like it. Ram Das Jr. published books of hymns throughout the region, like gurus before him, but Ram Das Jr. was adding his own songs to the hymnals, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to do if you think you're the heir to the whole deal and are doing what others have done before you.
But he wasn't.
But he was not selected to be the next guru. So Arjan decided that the only way to fight this PR nightmare was to publish an authoritative book of scripture as the publicly recognized guru. So with the help of a scribe named Bhagats and a team of traveling researchers, Arjan compiled the best poems from the previous gurus. And a thing that I've actually found very frustrating in doing all of this research, I cannot find an index of all of the contents of the Adi Granth. The Granth Sahib is not the same thing, and so I can't just assume that the old enough content was also present in the Adi Granth. I will rectify this at some point.
Or if you're an expert, drop us a line.
Yeah, I need to fill this gap in my knowledge because it bugs me kind of a lot.
I'm sure there's an expert out there that can help us.
Yeah, there's got to be. But my Google foo was insufficient.
Did you ask ChatGPT?
I don't need that robot making things up.
That's fair.
But anyway, they produced several draft editions of this project, and many of them survive today before they came up with the original authoritative Adi Granth, which also survives today.
Cool.
That's kind of a big deal for religious texts.
Yeah.
So these writings were recorded on long, narrow palm leaves. They did also eventually make paper and something a little bit more familiar to you and me, but their first manuscripts basically would fan out like your little paper fans that you're used to seeing.
That's kind of cool.
Right? Not a familiar look for somebody who's got a collection of books on the shelf at home.
Yeah.
But it's kind of nifty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 1604, Guru Arjan Dev completed the Adi Granth and placed it in the Golden Temple with a special reader named Baba Buddha.
Great name.
Right? Baba Buddha was about to turn 98 when he was given this job. And everybody's like, yes, this is the perfect pick. And I think even the people who are like, I wish it was someone else, weren't that worried about it because he was 98. They could reasonably expect somebody else would inherit this job.
Right? It's like every time I don't like a pope, they're always so old. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably see 4 or 5 more popes in my lifetime.
Right. So Baba Buddha was one of the first students of the Guru. So hard to argue with this appointment because he remembers his time with Guru Nanak. So pretty handy.
Yeah, kind of cool.
Right? Baba Buddha performed the formal ceremonies that gave authority to the first 5 successors to the Guru title, the coronation.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived to be 124. In fact, just a month short of turning 125.
Is that real?
I mean, it's as real as anyone can prove it.
Okay. That seems very old.
It is so incredibly old.
I kind of want to Google oldest person that's ever lived.
I mean, as far as proven to the satisfaction of the Guinness Book of World Records, that number would be close. I don't know if he'd be on that list as proven, but a lot of religions claim older people.
Okay, a French woman, Jeanne Helment, lived to 122. And so I assume that's...
Is that current living oldest or oldest on record?
Oldest. I Googled oldest ever.
Okay. I mean, this is sufficiently far back that those looking for authoritative records today might not be satisfied.
Right. But it's not unreasonable because what we do have on record is 122. So
right. Yeah.
She was rich. That's part of the reason she did it.
That helps a lot.
Yep.
And Baba Buddha was well respected in his community, would have been well cared for, at least to the extent that they had such capacity. So this original authorized Adi Granth is still in Kartarpur.
That's really cool.
Very cool. And a little bit more around the story. And you want to interrupt?
Well, I was going to say, because Sikhism isn't that old in comparison to what, 600 years, 700 years old?
Not even.
Not even. So,
no, it showed up in the 1500s.
Yeah,
like around the time of Martin Luther.
So it's cool, but not unbelievable to have a text that's
right.
that old.
Yeah.
Not to diminish it. But
it's impressive, but not
as
full
finding
on miraculous.
Your first Hebrew Bible.
Right.
Miraculous.
Right. So when Emperor Akbar of the Mughal Empire heard that Guru Arjan was putting together a volume of songs that slandered Islam, he asked to inspect the Granth. Guru Arjan appeased the emperor, and Baba Buddha, the keeper, and Bhai Gurdas, the scribe, read passages from the Granth that honored Islam. Akbar decided that the reports were false, that had been about the book slandering Islam, and he gave the guru a bunch of gold to support the manuscript project.
Nice. Patrons of the arts. Patreons of the arts.
Exactly. Unfortunately, the next Mughal emperor, Jahangir, wasn't such a big fan and ordered the guru's execution just 2 years after completing this legacy project.
Yeah, guru executions are a thing, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is why the next guy has a book.
Well, we're just talking about the fifth guru.
I know. I said the title in the podcast. Maybe. I don't know what we're calling it, but... So
the real question is, what was in this book?
Well, let me tell you.
All right.
So Guru Arjan made sure to collect the authentic hymns of his predecessors, rejecting those that he was sure were counterfeits. He also collected and included hymns from his favorite Sufi Muslims and Hindu saints. Naturally, he added some of his own content to the Adi Granth, Arjan's writings. There were 2,218 of Arjan's writings, nearly equaling the total contributions of the previous gurus. Previous gurus being Guru Nanak, Guru Angad, Guru Amar Das, and Guru Ram Das. Guru Angad, number 2, has the fewest included writings, only 62 of the gurus in this first edition.
And so when I read Nanak, I do want to say Nanak, but every time I've heard it, because I've been listening.
Oh, to stuff, yeah.
And
Nanak.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the syllable in the wrong place. That's like the hardest thing to correct.
Right? Reading foreign words is tricky. And I've had to practice saying Nanak.
Good. I'm glad you practiced. I should have. In the final version, called Guru Granth Sahib, established by Guru Gobind Singh, he included 116 of his predecessor, Guru Tegh Bahadur's writings. Some argue that Gobind Singh included one of his own poems and one by the 7th Guru Har Rai.
These particular hymns, there's actually a fair bit of argument on who wrote them.
Because they don't sound like
the old
anything
Bards,
else.
Or if they're really written by these two gurus who otherwise have none of their own content in the book.
Right. In addition to the writings of the gurus, several other categories of authors are included, which I think is super cool. The 15 Bhagats are devotees to the principles of the good life, though not necessarily followers of the guru. The Bhagats contributed about 800 writings, short verses, whole songs, etc. Bhagat Kabir was the most cited of all the saints with 541 hymns. And considering Arjan had 2,000, that's a quarter of what Arjan had, the guy who wrote the thing. So that's,
Yeah, it's a bunch.
Bhagat Namdev, Bhagat Ravidas, and Bhagat Trilochan are Hindu saints. So we got
a lot of people who aren't Sikhs getting their stuff included.
Yeah, I think I said in our Sikhism episode, it's like Hinduism and Islam had a baby.
Yeah.
And here's proof of that.
Right. And then there were the Bards.
The Bhatts.
Which means?
Bards.
There were 11 of them. And they were a collection of Saraswat Brahmins who followed Nanak, which I think is pretty cool. They just left their position of great privilege to join the Sikhi.
Sound kind of apostolate.
A little bit, yeah. And they contributed 123 writings to the collection.
There were also 4 other devoted Gur Sikhs who were lucky enough to have their small handful of poems included.
Yeah, just wise students.
I love it.
Yeah.
We should put together a collection of holy watermelon poems.
I like it. Let's do it.
And if you want to submit, you might be lucky enough to be included.
Right? I feel like our standards aren't so high to be prohibitive.
Really no. We'll just call it an anthology. So the Granth Sahib is broken down into 60 ragas, which are musical patterns or kind of traditional Indian musical measures. I'm not musical at all, so even just reading this, I was like, I don't get it. But
I've got strong feelings on this.
Okay.
So we talked about how Paul's epistles were ordered.
Terribly.
Well, how were they ordered?
Largest, smallest.
Yeah. Weird choice, right?
Very weird choice.
Arranging the Hebrew Bible prophets, almost largest to smallest, but not quite. But not in chronological order.
Nope.
Kind of weird. So, of all of the ways to sort content from several saints and gurus, they could have arranged in any other category format than let's have the sonnets over here, the limericks over here, and the haikus over here. But that's basically what they did, metaphorically speaking, because those aren't their poetic forms.
I don't know. Again, running with your analogy, if I was reading a book of poems, I wouldn't be upset if it was divided by...
Right, it has artistic value.
Yeah.
But
I guess contextually.
Yeah. It is better than just arranging the epistles by length from an artistic point of view.
Yeah. But none of them, I guess the thing with holy books is this is where we get the having to read things intertextually, which we're going to be dropping an episode if it hasn't dropped already. Katie does a Bible study. And it's just weird to me that it has to. Why don't you just put it in an order that makes sense?
Because the library doesn't do that.
That's what the Dewey Decimal System is for, Preston.
That just groups things in themes.
Oh, that would be the most helpful way to do this. Absolutely, this would be the most helpful way to do this.
Yes, themes would be great.
So, all holy books need to use the Dewey Decimal System, and
that would be okay.
We're going to redo all the holy books.
All right, let's do it.
And it'll be instead of the NRSV, it'll be the DDSV, the Dewey Decimal System version.
I like it.
And we'll just redo them all by theme.
The Dewey Decimal Bible.
The Dewey Decimal Bible. I'm so into this.
All right.
Sorry, that was a rabbit hole.
So the ragas are subdivided by meter, or also called their nature, then by author, then by clef.
Oh. I don't know enough about music to know what you mean by clef.
So clef, I had to ask around a little bit to make sure there isn't some poetic use of the word clef, okay. But we are talking about poetry set to music.
Right.
And so that is like bass clef, treble clef kind of business.
Okay, so what?
The higher songs separated from the lower songs, basically, is the deal. Yeah,
you really got to dumb this down for me.
So you had the kind of poetry subdivided by meter, and then within that subdivision, you had it subdivided by author. Author took third place in importance in all of this.
And then by how high or low you sing it? Yeah. I like it. So it's ridiculous, but I like it.
You need a much better index than net canonically comes with the book to be able to find the thing you're looking for.
Well, and I feel weird jumping ahead, but it kind of works in the sense that some of the videos I was watching on YouTube of people interacting with the Granth Sahib is a lot of it. I won't say a lot of it. I don't know if that's true. But some of it is flipping to a random page because that is the guru giving you the advice you need. Right. So I kind of love that it's not in any air quotes order. It obviously isn't in order. But if you knew, Deuteronomy is in the first chunk, well, you could
skip past it.
Skip past it. But no, right? If you wanted something that's right. So know where things are as opposed to it's a little more randomized.
I'm glad you like it this way because I've got a secret. When I was listening to the Granth Sahib, I found a long playlist on YouTube and I said, randomize this for me.
Perfect.
Because I'll admit I couldn't listen to the whole thing in time to prepare for this episode.
It's hard. Holy books are long.
But there's a lot of content
here.
And
again, I don't mean to jump ahead, but there's actually a ceremony where you read it through without stopping. It takes 2 full days. It takes 48 hours. So to prepare in 2 weeks, that's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time of not doing other things. Yes. If you're actually going to pay attention to what you're listening to.
Yes. So we're sorry. Maybe one day we'll
at some point it's accomplishable for sure. Lots of faithful people do this on the regular.
Absolutely.
It's just not something we've done.
Well, I just mean one day we'll probably look back to some of these old topics when it is old. That's so brand new. It dropped today. And go, hey, we've learned more. Let's go back and revisit. Anyway, right. I digress. The hymns are recorded in more than a dozen languages, but are all written in Gurmukhi script, which literally translates as from the Guru's mouth. Yeah.
I kind of think that's a nifty thing to do. It feels a little bit like if we were to take a whole bunch of writings and just transcribe them into the Latin alphabet without translating them, which is basically what they've done, so that anyone could read them without really having a strong familiarity with the original language. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's going to be somebody around who knows what is being said, who can translate it for you.
I forget what the game is. It's some map painter video game that Bryant plays. And there's a little cutscene. And it's like, you had a nightmare. that an owl flew to your window and said, "Did you practice your Gurmukhi today?" And it's literally like shading through a window. And I was like, I love it. But that was the language that they're like, "But did you practice your Gurmukhi today?" You wake up in a cold sweat.
Right. French or the trench.
French or the trench. German or burning.
Duolingo gets a lot of shade, but I mean, we still use it.
Yeah. The Granth is laid out precisely to the same number of pages in every printing. Love that.
Right? It's so that you know what page the thing is going to be, even if you're borrowing a friend's copy.
Well, I guess it also even comes back to that sort of that fate of opening to a random page. Well, your fate would be different if you had a different version of the book.
Which doesn't actually sound problematic to me, but I still appreciate the uniformity of having this this way.
A niceness to that.
Yeah.
So the Sacred 1604 edition has 1,948 pages. It's 12 inches by 8 inches, but a lot of those pages were blank to allow for additions as they got more material and more gurus.
Yeah. I mean, the 5th guru did intend to have several more gurus. It wasn't until the 10th said, let's change this.
We keep getting killed.
Yeah. Bad times.
Yeah.
So there are 1,430 pages in the current permanent living guru edition, which doesn't sound like a huge number. A lot of Bibles will have about that same count.
We didn't touch on the fact that they believe it is the living guru.
Right.
This is the first time we've mentioned that, and I don't know if it comes later, but
yeah, we'll get into it a little bit further.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cart before the horse.
And I think it's really interesting. There's a story that I found about binding this book.
That kind of makes sense that it would be quite a sacred process.
Right. So the place where they had to get it bound was actually quite distant from where they'd been doing the transcribing. And naturally a big deal. So a fella named Bhai Bano was entrusted with the pages for the trip. And he was told, don't stay in one city for more than a single night and just get yourself there. He really wanted to show off in one particular place. He's told, don't stick around. You can show it off, but keep moving. And he really wanted a copy of the book that he could share with people.
Oh no.
And so he decided, without getting permission to copy the book.
Oh no, plagiarism.
That he would take his sweet time traveling.
Copyright infringement.
Right? I mean, there's some argument that maybe the Adi Granth was copyright infringement too. But that's not the argument that we want to make today.
Pretty problematic.
So he took his sweet time traveling, only going about 5 miles each day, spending the rest of his time each day getting this copy made. Everybody in his group helped out, and they got it done relatively quickly. And the downside to this is that our guy Bhai Bano did add some apocryphal content and maybe some of his own stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Extra bad for copyright infringement. Can't do that.
Yeah. It's not a great move, religiously speaking. Needless to say, Arjun was not terribly pleased and not a little bit surprised.
Well, that's good.
To see that this book had been duplicated and expanded just a wee bit. When it was decided, after consulting the Sikhs, that the sacred book should be held in the Golden Temple, Guru Arjun proclaimed that it was the best choice because a sight of it annuls all sins.
Wow.
So this is the perfect situation, perfect place to be to experience the Granth.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Now, if there's a place I can go to annul all of my sins, visiting might be very popular.
Yes. Yeah.
So good religious move.
We can cut this if it is relevant. But I told a Catholic friend that the Shroud of Turin's coming out this summer. She got very excited. And I said, good luck with that. Turin is probably already booked full, hotel-wise and car-wise and ticket-wise. And
we've talked about the Shroud of Turin before on this show. I don't know why people pay to see it.
You know what? This Granth Sahib is far more legit than the Shroud of Turin. If you want to see something legit and religious, even if it's not your religion, this is it.
Yeah.
Don't spend the money going to Italy.
The Adi Granth, the genuine relic that so much pain and effort went into, is still around and very impressive.
Yes. Another cool thing about the Granth Sahib is that it's meant to be sung, as Preston mentioned, and it's arranged in its melodic verses. Kirtan is the term for devotional singing. So highly recommend you go to YouTube and check out some singings of the Granth Sahib.
Recitations?
Recitation.
We can throw on all kinds of fancy verbs here. That's fine.
A chanting?
Sure. I think that's fair.
Oodling? A yodeling? Anyway.
I mean, it's an option. Anyway,
literally, it's like, don't let white folk get a hold of this book.
We haven't really talked about what is in this book, content-wise.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Talked a little bit about some of the authors. So what are they singing about? A huge number of the hymns are praises to the Creator. A lot of these have different perspectives, leaning a little bit more towards Hinduism, a little bit more towards Islam, and a little bit more different from those in a truly Sikh tradition.
Yes.
A nice variety.
It is, I was going to say monotheistic religion.
Yeah. It's certainly not monolithic.
It's like, what is that word that we're talking about? So some of the songs describe revelations given to the gurus. Some of them honor ideas drawn from, as Preston mentioned, Hindu and Islam, often sung in the same song.
Yeah.
And some of the songs describe the world and the futility of temporal efforts and achievements. That is a big part of Sikhism, is like, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of what we talk about is the general Indian philosophy, the Hindu religion. A lot of that is carried over into
this kind of
the samsara is a struggle that, you just need to stop fighting, stop struggling. Everything's going to be fine. Stop trying to achieve things.
And even more so than monotheistic, it is panentheistic. Everything is God.
And is within God.
And within God.
So the Adi Granth didn't really get updated versions with the following gurus until the 10th guru, Guru Gobind Singh. Instead of naming a successor of his human followers, before he was martyred, he said, this book will be the next guru. But also, another part that's often left out when people retell this story is that, so in addition to the Guru Granth Sahib, the book, there is also the Guru Khalsa Panth, which is the community of Sikhs. And they together can use wisdom to guide one another.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I alluded to it before, but Sikhs believe that the holy book is the final and eternal living guru.
Yeah. Long life.
Long life. Long lived.
And it seems to be working out for them.
Yeah. And even from the beginning of the book's life, Guru Arjan had said, he who would wish to see the guru, let him see the Granth. He who would seek the guru's word, let him read the Granth with love and attention.
Yeah, so this sacred book, the Granth Sahib, is treated with the same level of respect that a human guru would receive, such as bowing and ensure that the head is covered in its presence.
And as I mentioned, that devotional reading is called Akhand Path, and it involves reading all the scriptures aloud without a break. So it's a very secret practice, no interruptions. And reciters will take turns reading to ensure there is no break. If you've ever seen a relay race and the first guy starts running, that's literally how they do it. One guy will start mouthing the words, and then the first guy will take his break. And it takes about 48 hours to read the entire thing that way.
It's quite the task.
Yeah.
But, religious traditions have all kinds of pretty impressive things they accomplish.
True. I didn't read, now I'm curious. More things to learn. like how long your shift is.
Right.
Because reading, I mean, even doing this, we're pretty dried out after an hour.
Right.
So I'd be curious how long your shift is.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
I can't imagine it being much more than an hour, but
Right.
But then it's also devotional, and people do a lot of masochistic things to themselves in the name of religion. So
It's true.
sitting and singing for 2 hours is not actually that bad in comparison.
Well, see, the thing is, if you want to faithfully and correctly do a reading, you're going to want to stay hydrated.
But you can't sip without breaking.
Correct. Which means your shifts probably aren't terribly long.
I'm looking it up. I can't. Now that we're talking about it, I'm more curious. Oh, interesting. If it's done in English, it takes almost 3 days to complete.
Sure.
And there are rituals. I should have put this in the notes. There are rituals where one person does it, and it takes about 27 hours. 1 hour. Or about
shifts?
60. It's about 65 pages at a time.
Okay.
Sorry. Interesting stuff on the internet.
So there have been several variant manuscripts of the Granth found over the last couple hundred years, launching all kinds of theories about authenticity and how the collection has evolved since the early gurus.
What, variations in holy books? No.
Yeah. So there's ideas trying to explain why there are variations. And of course, there's variations on these theories too. Somebody's like, yeah, okay, you're close, but I think it might be more like this. So let's take a look at those. So the first theory we'll get into is that some scholars, including Balwant Singh Dhillon, believe that there was a consistent mother tradition. That's the word to use, a mother tradition, that Guru Nanak's hymns were preserved in one volume without corruption, and later gurus added their hymns. Seems pretty sensible. The Sikh scripture developed in a linear, pure form. According to this model, there was no variation or diversity before canonization, and the collection grew in an organized and disciplined format. This theory denies the existence of valid apocryphal writings and doesn't really try to explain why there are variants.
Why they exist. Yeah.
And this theory is pretty popular among faithful Sikhs. I know you stumbled across the phrase that I have also stumbled across in my readings, that this is the only religion with a book written by its founders during their lifetime. And this explanation agrees with this idea. Of course, that assertion denies the existence of the Latter-day Saints.
Joseph Smith just wrote down what God gave him. So
that's what we're saying the gurus did.
No, because they're writing this stuff on it's not all divinely inspired.
Right.
Right.
But some of these are revelations.
That's true.
So we have that.
Okay. I'm just like going through all the holy books in order now. I'm like, okay, fair.
Right. I mean, even if we're looking at, say, the writings of Ezekiel, they might have been written down by Ezekiel. Traditionally, it seems a lot more likely it would have been written down by a scribe, probably after he died. And an awful lot of content is like that. The primary idea is Nanak wrote things down.
Did a great job.
The next guy. So did the next guy.
Yeah, nothing changed.
It is contradictory to the story that we have of Guru Arjan doing this collection work, but that doesn't mean it's fully not an option.
Right. Another theory is some scholars like Gurinder Singh Man think the collection started from a single process, proceeded naturally, diversifying into separate textual traditions with some variations. And these scholars support their theory by highlighting the similarities of the manuscripts, particularly between the three manuscripts, the Guru Har Sahai manuscript, the Govindwal manuscript, and the Guru Nanak Dev University manuscript of 1245. The weakness of this model is the variations in 27 manuscripts dated between 1642 and 1692.
It's tricky business.
Yeah.
And another variation on this idea has two branches developing over time, separately and independently, the Peshawar and the Kartarpur Kartarpur being where the Adi Granth is today.
So some dissension.
Yeah. Or just ignorant independent evolution. Who knows? The third big one, which branches out into a more variety, I think, of different explanations on the same sort of theme, has scholars like Pyar Singh that believe that independent versions of the Granth developed in separate regions.
Interesting.
Right? We've talked about how this happens in some places.
Yeah.
Due to the forgetfulness or creativity of local Sikh gurus, or gurus is the wrong word. They're leaders, because gurus is like the top guys. New popular songs being adopted from all kinds of sources, and sometimes just scribal errors. That happens. So it's these manuscripts that Guru Arjan collected into the Adi Granth. And this idea is that there is no authentic version of a pre-canonical text. It's just a whole bunch of things, which is similar to the main story we talked about at the beginning, which just, it does make some sense.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these make sense. That's why they're so well spread around. A variation on this theory has scholars like Jivan Dial that like the third theory, but think there were independent texts among Sikh groups before Guru Arjan decided to edit and redact them into the Adi Granth.
I mean, that also makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a long tradition, 10 gavers.
Yeah.
And then the fourth theory. Jeez. This is some scholars, including Peshwara Singh, think the Sikh scripture emerged from a collaboration between Guru Arjan and his close associates. His collaborators were his admirers, well-versed in Sikh philosophy and Sanskrit traditions, and philosophical ideas of other Indian regions as well. The variant manuscripts seem to support this theory, as does the handwriting analysis of the Kartarpur manuscript approved by Guru Arjan, which shows several distinct scribal styles. The variation in the manuscript also showed that the Adi Granth was not simply copied from a previous text.
So, as much as this seems like there would have been one simple story to bring us this book, turns out we have elements of chaos.
What? Color me shocked.
Right? And who knows? Maybe it's just people taking parts of the Adi Granth they liked and making their own collection.
Not unheard of.
Right? I mean, there could literally be somebody doing that right now.
I mean, I was going to say, just emulating the Christians. In all their versions.
There's really only one version of the New Testament. Almost true. There are many textual variants.
Yes.
But nobody's coming up with new Greek variants today.
That's fair. Yeah.
They might be finding some every now and then, but they're not creating new Greek variants today. Right. But generally there is an agreed upon Greek text that is being translated.
Right. That's just how you translate it and then interpret it.
Yeah. Nothing is monolithic.
No.
This world is too complicated.
Yep. Well,
did we cover all of the things?
I think we did cover all the things. Well, we are left with some questions.
Yeah. And good research will always leave you with more questions.
But we covered all of our show notes, so check that box.
Perfect.
Well, we're wanting to grow this podcast.
If you got anything to teach us, let us know.
Oh.
Let's continue the discussion on Discord or Facebook or Instagram.
Leave us an Apple review and share with a friend, because that's how we will grow our audience and get this fantastic podcast in more ear holes.
More ear holes. Okay.
I mean, I don't want it in a single ear hole.
Right. More ears felt.
Ear holes. Because now they're going to remember to share with a friend. Because Katie said ear holes.
Perfect.
And if you don't like the term ear holes, then share with a friend so I never have to say it again.
Thanks for that. We've also got great opportunities to find really cool merch. We're always coming up with new stuff on our spread shop. And we've also got Patreon, where we're releasing new exclusive content that if you like our show enough to hear a little bit more that not everybody else is getting, this is where to find it.
Yeah, it is.
We've also got our book club.
Yep.
And thanks, Lisa, for joining that. It's one of our Patreon tiers.
If you want to learn along with us, that's a great opportunity.
Thanks for joining us.
Peace be with you.
By the late Middle Ages, the Christian prophecy had fulfilled itself.